Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at my updated Game Week 5 transfer plans. So the double Game Week 7 news is still pretty new to us. It's only a couple of days ago that the announcement was made. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the Luton and Burnley fixtures and also talk a little bit about how it may affect my transfer plans moving forward and whether it's worth it or not to even consider these assets now. Right, so hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and if you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So jumping straight into the fixtures for Luton and Burnley. Now in Game Week 5, Luton will have Fulham. In Game Week 6, they have Wolves, followed by Everton, Burnley in that double Game Week 7, and then Tottenham in Game Week 8. As for Burnley, it's Nottingham Forest, followed by Manchester United, and then their double in Game Week 7 would be Newcastle and Luton, followed by Game Week 8, they will be playing Chelsea at home. So, one look at these fixtures, and you already see Luton in general has the better fixtures, right? We already knew from fixture takers a couple of weeks ago that in general, Luton's run right now is one of the better runs. But the thing is, before we even consider any of these assets, we need to think about how, if they weren't having double Game Week 7, would we be targeting these assets or not, and why, right? And in general, none of us really looked at any of the assets that we're talking about right now, like Morris or Lyle Taylor, and there's a reason for that, and it's simply because these are championship sides that have just promoted into the Premier League. Luton and Burnley are definitely sides that we don't expect to get loads of attacking returns or defensive returns for that matter as well. So that perspective on how strong their attack is or how strong their defense is should not leave our minds. It is definitely something we need to keep at the back of our heads, and only because now in Game Week 7 where they are doubling that maybe we can potentially consider these assets. Now in Game Week 7, Everton and Burnley for Luton Town is definitely a better double than Burnley's one, which is Newcastle and Luton. So looking at the assets as well, discussing some of them, I think obviously Morris is the one from Luton Town that comes up as a really good option. 5.5 million as well, and he's nailed and he's on penalties. Potentially, if you want to go for a Luton Town defender, Bell or Anderson are also decent options. Of course, Kabore has dropped off the starting 11. We don't really know what's the situation there, so that's also a monitor. For Burnley as well, I think the only assets up front would be Lyle Taylor, but then again, he's not nailed. If you want to go for a defender, there's Bayer as well. So these are mainly the players that can come into our considerations come Game Week 7. But at this point in time, for my own team, I'm not looking to bring any of these assets in Game Week 5. Whether or not the fixture ticker from official FPL shows that these are green fixtures for Luton, right? It does look pretty good, right? Game Week 5 to Game Week 7, it's all green. But I do think like they will be struggling. So I don't really look at the official FPL fixture ticker colors, right, to trust them. I do feel like, games like Wolves, games like Everton, these are not easy games by any stretch for a team like Luton Town, right? So let's take a look now at my team for Game Week 5 without any transfers made. So this is my team in Game Week 5 without any transfers made. It's exactly the same as how I lined up in Game Week 4. And as you guys can see, there are no real pressing issues that I have to address. I can just start Turner ahead of Onana. My back three will be Udogie, Colwell and Chilwell. Of course, it's not ideal to double up on Chelsea defense, but Bournemouth away is not the worst fixture in the world. And I can take a chance on Levi Colwell. Hopefully he gets a clean sheet. If I don't really want to have him, or if let's say he gets injured, I can always swap him out for a Newcastle defender, and that's kind of one of the plans in the works as well. In midfield, I have Saka, Mbeumo, Foden, Rashford and Eze. Now it's good to highlight that all of these players returned in Game Week 4, so at this point in time they seem like holds to me. I don't think there are pressing transfers in any of these players that I need to remove. It seems like more of a luxury transfer if I do something like a Foden to a Son or Eze to Son or Maddison as well. So I do feel like I'm likely to keep this midfield, and then up front it's Haaland and Jackson. So barring any injuries whatsoever that will go on during the international break, it seems as if I can roll my one free transfer. But I do have 3.6 million in the bank, so let's say for example any one of these players gets injured, I am ready to react to that as well. But in terms of the Luton and Burnley assets that we just focused on just now in the previous section, as you guys can see, I don't think we'll be resting any of our attackers, whether in template teams right now or teams right now looking like mine, which is slightly different with Eze and Foden, etc., which are a little bit more differential. I don't think we would be benching any of these players for a Luton attacker, even if they are playing Fulham away, right? I still feel like players like Eze, I'll be starting here ahead of Morris. I'll be starting Foden ahead of Morris for sure as well. I wouldn't be benching any of the other players at all, right? So that's kind of why I don't think we really need to jump on Luton or Burnley assets now in game week 5, right? Especially since we weren't even targeting them at all, right? So the only concern comes in now for me in game week 7, where potentially maybe I can consider going for Morris from Luton, and I'll show you guys how that works out for my team moving forward using the transfer planner from Fantasy Football Hub. So this is my team on the Fantasy Football Hub transfer planner. I've loaded all my players into the tool, and basically now in game week 5, as I mentioned, I don't think I'll be making any transfers at all. If I do, there are only two main ones that I'm considering, which is Levi Colwill out for a Newcastle defender. That can be Kieran Trippier or Fabian Schär. At this point in time, if I was forced to make a transfer, I will probably do Colwill to Fabian Schär. Assuming I don't do that move, which I'm likely not to, right? I will probably wait 1 week for that. I can also consider a midfield transfer, but as I mentioned, I'm not too keen on that. It could be Foden or Eze up to Heung-min Son or Madison, right? So those are potential transfers, but as I mentioned, if I'm not forced into any of these moves, I definitely wouldn't. So let's just reverse that, and I'll keep Eze back into the team. So assuming now in game week 5 I roll the transfer, come game week 6 I will have 2 free transfers, and I'm still likely only to use one, right? So let's see how I'm going to use that one, and I will be for that Colwill to a Newcastle defender move. For now, I still like the look of Fabian Schär ahead of Trippier, because I do feel like there will be heavy rotation for Kieran Trippier. So I will continue to monitor the press conferences and how Eddie Howe speaks about the run coming up for Newcastle from game week 5 all the way to game week 8, where there is quite a tight fixture crunch for them. If we see that maybe rotation would not be that great, maybe I go for Kieran Trippier instead of Fabian Schär in game week 6 here. Now, moving on to game week 7, I will have 2 free transfers, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting, because for my team in particular, if we take a look at the fixtures, I will probably start Estupinian ahead of Udogie, who has Liverpool. I'll probably play Onana ahead of Turner as well. By then, maybe Turner has already lost his place. And then in midfield, there's Rashford, Saka, Foden, and Mbeumo, who have decent fixtures. Crystal Palace for Rashford, Bournemouth for Saka, Wolves for Foden, and Nottingham Forest for Mbeumo. So the only one with a tough fixture here is actually Eberechi Eze, right? Even the forwards have decent fixtures. Haaland has Wolves, Jackson has Fulham. So my point is that there is a chance come game week 7 with my 2 free transfers here, I can just use one and replace Osula with Morris. And this is an interesting move because not only is Morris is cheap, he's nailed, and he's on penalties for Luton. He will have 2 fixtures as well, which are one of the better fixtures for the double game week 7, because Burnley's one is obviously not as great, right? So let's say I make this move and I do Osula to Morris in game week 7. I can bench Eze, and I think this is slightly an easier benching to make, simply because Eze has Manchester United away. So I'm not expecting Crystal Palace to do too well there as well. So in game week 7, because I have Eze, there's a chance I can go for Morris and then bench Eze instead. And my team will look something like this. So at this point in time, with the double game week 7 announcement, I think it has come as kind of a exciting time for my team, because I can choose to go for Morris here in place of Eze, who I intended to start in game week 7, because I still want to keep him for the Nottingham Forest game in game week 8 as well for Eze. So as I mentioned, potentially I can do this transfer in game week 7, and that is how my team would likely react to this double game week 7 announcement. But once again, moving back to game week 5 now, as I mentioned, I don't think there's a real need for us to jump on any of the any of the Luton or Burnley assets now. We can just continue to assess them and see how they continue to fare in their games, and of course we won't even targeting them in the first place. Most of our attackers as well as our defenders at this point in time look fairly decent as well, and the teams to target at this point for game week 5 is actually either Newcastle or Spurs, so that remains the same. Luton and Burnley will probably only come into our plans later on, maybe game week 6, game week 7. So that's currently how I'm reacting to the double game week 7 announcement, and how my team would also react to it. Hopefully you guys found this video useful, and let me know what you guys are doing or planning with your teams reacting to this announcement? Drop them in the comments down below. I'll be keen to know. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. We're on the road to 5,000 subscribers, so hopefully we can get there before the Game Week 5 deadline. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in more Game Week 5 content very soon. Bye bye.